Okay, I'm gonna go. It's 1942 now, so we're supposed to re-adjourn. I'm gonna link you a battle report, and you're gonna have to open your out-of-game browsers to see this one because it's on the Agony killboard, and you need a password. I'll tell you what the password is in just a little bit. Normally in Agony, we have a hidden killboard with passwords and everything because we don't want to care too much about our kill-loss ratio, and basically how we do is not important to us, it's what we do. Yes, I'm going to go over target calling and how to call a target and stuff like that, but I'm going to use this fight as an example. I'm going to link something for you now. So copy that link and use your out-of-game browser. This is a fight that went down between Agony and Goonswarm. I was FCing this one. And you'll notice this fight is... we won this fight. We held the field. And you'll notice from their fleet composition and our fleet composition that we should not have won this fight. Well, you can't figure out how our FCs are unless you read the killboard comments. And please try not to take note of the bashing, the internal bashing that we do. Yeah, Sarek was the guy holding the field. Okay, like I said, this fight we should not have won. They have a superior fleet composition, they have superior ships, and they have logistics, they have jammers, they have fast tackle, they have range dictation, they're all in nano ships that can kite us. So how the hell did we win this fight? Someone explain it to me. How did we win this fight?
By being better than them?
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, use of tactics. What tactics? Come on. How did we dictate the terms of this engagement? How did we get this fight?
Well, you look like you're all short range.
Yes, we're all short range, and they're all long range kiters. Okay, Thekla.
Well, okay. I'm looking at the fits here. The Vagas are using the same type of guns, but the Vagas get bonus to range. So assuming you also have the same guns, you're probably close range. I assume you somehow managed to land right off top of them.
Yes, we got the fight at 0. That's the first part.
It
so
looks like
we managed... sorry?
No, it just looks like you warped on top of them, took out their ECM, and then went after their vagabonds or something. That's what I'm guessing.
Yep, okay, I'm gonna explain to you here. Basically what happened was that our -1 scout was reporting this gang, or actually it wasn't our -1 scout, it was a guy, Child of Destruction, and his skirmisher catching up with the gang. He was reporting this gang coming down a pipe, and we were sort of going the same way as them. So what we do is we just double back really quickly, because there are like 2 systems out, and we double back and we set up on a gate that we know they're gonna come through. And then we wait. And they were on the other side, and they were thinking about it, and they were sitting there for a bit, and then local spikes, and they come in. So this is how the fight sounded from my point of view. Okay guys, hold on gate, scram whatever comes through, spread scrams, get ready. Decloak Spider Pig is primary, Spider Pig is primary, get him scrammed, Spider Pig is primary, Spider Pig is gonna go down, secondaries, Lord Xander is secondary, get a scram on Lord Xander, Spider Pig is primary, get a scram on Lord Xander, Spider Pig is primary, Spider Pig is down, primary is Lord Xander, secondary is Garguza and a Scimitar, all DPS on Lord Xander, get a scram on Garguza, primary is Lord Xander is about to go down, primary is Garguza and a Scimitar. Burn after him. Get a scram. Garguza is primary. Secondary is Blackbite. Secondary is Blackbite. Primary is Garguza. Secondary is Blackbite. Primary is Garguza. Garguza is going to go down. Primary is Blackbite. Primary is Blackbite. Secondary is Shinta and a Hugin. Get a scram on Shinta and a Hugin. Primary is Blackbite. Get a scram on Shinta and a Hugin. Blackbite is going to go down. Secondary is Mavek Odan and a Vagabond. Primary is Shinta and a Hugin. Get a scram on Mavek Odan. That's how it sounds. That's how you call targets. Call a primary, you call a secondary, you tell them what to get a scram on, and you repeat whatever your primary is, and you repeat what your secondary is. Spider Pig was primary because he was the first to decloak. And while we were doing this, Temporal in his Phantasm, who's one of our better gang members, he was popping the Kitsunes. And while I was calling these targets, people were calling, I'm down, or Major 7th is down, Uzi is down, Noxara is down, Sofa is down. And we were losing DPS. This is obviously sped up a little bit. But I never called the Kitsunes. I assumed that someone would kill them. So what we did here was we burned down Spider Pig and in the Vagabond, and then we burned down one more Vagabond. And then I figured, okay, we've had enough DPS to break their reps on these two guys, but we're losing ships. We're losing ships about as fast as they are. So in a minute, we're not going to have enough DPS to break the reps on that Scimitar. That's why I called the Scimitar as the third primary. Not the first primary, because I needed to get some of their DPS down and try to get the Vagabonds before they kited out. And then I saw the Scimitar. He was holding at 20 kilometers, so I just told someone, get a scram on that Scimitar. And someone called a scram on that Scimitar. And then after we'd killed two Vagabonds, we went and killed the Scimitar. So when the Scimitar went down, we had enough, we didn't need to care about their reps, so we had enough to kill the others. But, why, how did they fuck up to let us kill them? What mistake did they do? Saki-saker.
Impatience.
No. They could easily come into our fleet. We were at 0 on the gate. They all spawned at 13 kilometers. But they fucked up in a different way. Canada. No, they had eyes on us. They knew we were there.
Oh, they had a scout? Okay, I didn't know that.
But Thekla got it right. They didn't burn. They didn't kite. They tried to brawl. And our ships were actually superior brawlers to theirs, because if you take a look at it, they have 5 DPS ships. 5 proper DPS ships and the Drake. The Drake came in late, so that's why it wasn't killed. But the Mavericks, the Vagabonds did not kite. So we were able to get scrams on them, and we had superior DPS. And we got the fight at 0. That's why we got it. Yep. So that's sometimes how I sound when I'm FCing and when I'm really excited. Fintar?
Yeah, what are you... Just a question, what are your, like, skirmishers and, tacklers, the light tacklers, usually doing when the brawling and stuff starts?
Yes, that's the next point. I'm very glad you asked. Yep, as Child of Destruction is saying there, notice that none of our skirmishers died. We did not lose any of the interceptors. And the reason for that is that the interceptors were staying safe and keeping points at stuff and preventing it from warping away. They didn't scram stuff because they didn't have scrams, but they were keeping points, preventing it from warping away. What they called the targets, they primaried the Osprey, and then I think their secondary target was Temporal in the Phantasm. And then they started working their way through our Vexers and Ruptures. Now, Glepp went down like 2/3 into the fight. I went down about the same time as the Hugin. So I think it was Uzi who took over in the Stabber. So that's the next point I was going to go through. Let's see. I'm just looking through my notes here. Disengaging, or preventing the enemy from disengaging. Basically, preventing the enemy from disengaging means you need to have tackle. If there's a fight going down at 0 on a gate like this, you probably want to have 1 tackle on the other side of that gate. Why do you want to have 1 tackle on the other side of that gate?
Because most of them are aggressed.
Only Green Yoshi X'd up, so Green Yoshi's going to answer that one.
You want to have someone else on the other side of the gate in case one of your targets burns back to gate or their entire group burns back to gate. If you happen to aggress them, your entire fleet's going to be aggressed and you're not going to be able to jump through, so your skirmisher on the other side will be able to tackle anything on the other side, and they'll also be able to tell if there's a local count going up, if these guys are bringing him back up, if that's your -1 scout.
Yep, exactly. And you also want to have your tackle on that side of the gate. Keep points on whatever isn't tackled. Generally, on your heavy ships, like battle cruisers, battleships, should always fit a point, unless it's a concept fleet where you don't want points on them. But almost always fit a point on your battle cruiser or your cruiser or whatever. And when tackle tackles something, like the secondary or tertiary target, tackle gets tackle on it, they call point on Spider Pig. And then when Spider Pig becomes primary, then one of the cruisers or battle cruisers will say secondary point on Spider Pig. And that means that your tacklers should move to whatever is secondary or tertiary. So spread the points. Or the FC can say, spread the points, spread your tackle. These guys are going to run, spread your tackle, spread your tackle. So if I tell you guys, spread your tackle, what do you do? Tekla?
You just explained your method earlier. If you want to spread tackle, you pick one that's closest to your name in the alphabet. Just, if he's in range.
Exactly. If he's in range and reasonably close to your name, you put your point or scram on it. It's that simple. I say spread your tackle, spread your tackle, spread your tackle. You find one ship that's within point range or tackle range of you. You put your tackle on that, and that's close to your name in the alphabet, and you hold that. You put your DPS on the primary, but you put your tackle on whatever's in range. You don't necessarily burn out to grab it away so you can't put DPS on the primary, but if something's reasonably close that you can tackle it, you put your point on that. Okay, other questions? Tekla?
This particular Vaga fight, I assume every thing you had was damage drones?
I can't remember. I only had damage drones because I was flying a Vexor, but I can't remember. I think most of us had DPS drones, yeah.
Just smash drones on the primary.
Yeah, that's a bit of extra DPS. Also, bubbles. They are your friend. If you have a Dictor, you want to have them put a bubble on the fight if you want to keep the enemy there. If you're fighting at 0 on a gate, you might want to put the bubbler through to bubble the other side if they're going to run. And try to keep them bubbled. Also, on disengaging. 2 ways of disengaging someone. Give me 2 examples of how to disengage. Kunali?
First one is just to burn away and warp away. The other one is disengaging, de-aggressing and then jumping through.
Perfect. That's what I had in mind. Either kite out of range, out of tackle range, burn away, and then have people warp individually. Why don't you want to use a gang warp when people are burning off? Green?
The reason you don't want to use a gang warp is because not all of your fleet could be aligning to the same position. If your fleet's aligned and about to warp off and your FC all of a sudden gang warps you, the people who are not aligned to the same object that you're aligned to will all of a sudden find their aligned killed, and they'll have to spend at least 5 or 10 seconds left on the grid while the enemy can get a point on them.
Exactly. So if you're calling a burnout and disengage, you can either call burnout and align to something, if everyone's on approximately the same side, and then use a gang warp. Or you can call burnout, and then you ask, is anyone tackled? Is anyone tackled? If no one speaks up, then you say, okay, everyone warp off now. I generally don't like to use burn off and warp off, because if everyone's burning off, there might be tacklers chasing after them. And if the gang stays on grid reasonably close together, they can pop that tackle much easier than if everyone except the one guy he's burning for warps off. So keeping your gang reasonably together until someone says, you ask, is anyone tackled? And then no one says yes, then you can say, okay, warp off, warp off. And always repeat your orders. Always repeat your orders. Always repeat your orders. Because people will not get it the first time. This is because people will not get it the first time, so you need to repeat your orders because people will not get it the first time, right? And yes, you see what I did there. Finally, someone saw what I did there. Yes. Yep. So a really bad habit for FC is to be unclear on what you want. It's better to make a bad call really loudly and repeating it a lot of times than to make no call at all. And if the FC doesn't make any calls and everyone's sitting there getting killed, then someone just step up and start calling primaries. Start calling targets, just start calling targets, just start calling targets. And repeat them. Okay, I'm going to take you now again on a journey through some kill mails, or battle reports. It's going to take like 10 minutes and then we're going to wrap it up and go roaming. let's see. Ah, yes, this fight. Once again, use your out-of-game browser and open this fight. Now, can someone give me a fleet assessment of the two different fleets?
Hostile fleet.
Okay, let me alt top first, since I'm one of the one-screen losers here. Wow. They have drakes. Let me see what a drake has.
No, you don't know that before the fight. You just see the ship types. That's all you know.
I would assume heavy missile drake at first moment, so ranged drakes. That's what I would assume. Since they have 4 drakes, I would assume long range.
Sorry, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the two different fleets? Anyone? Okay, Prudence?
Well, the Agony fleet is high speed with rapier for webs. You have a couple of dictors for bubbles. The opposing fleet has some ECM with the Scorpion. They have drakes. They have harbingers and hurricanes. So high DPS, probably long range, is what I'd guess.
Yep. Okay. Basically, you have a nano fleet with only 4 DPS ships and assorted support. One of them a rapier, and one griffin, which is not a very good jammer, up against an 8-man battlecruiser gang with Scorpion support. Now, we had eyes on these guys, and we held glepp in a vagabond. I wasn't FCing this fight. It was another guy FCing it. But we held glepp in a vagabond, Zoo, Vadqua in a jaguar, and Darren Franks in a saber. One system out to sort of we were catching up, so we hid part of our fleet. These guys were set up in 97X on the M2 dash gate with the Scorpion at 80 kilometers, and the battlecruisers at 0. So we had to go into them. They were sitting there. They were waiting for us. If we wanted to fight, we had to go into them. They were patient. They wouldn't come into us. And we had eyes on them. We had Itrian in the Aris in there. He was zooming around. So what we did was we told Itrian, because these guys, they have no fast tackle. They have no bubblers. Agony also had a scimitar on this fight, which doesn't show up because he didn't whore on any kill mails. But we had Itrian in there, and we were sitting at 0 on that gate. And what we did was have Itrian burn around their fleet to get 100 kilometers behind the Scorpion. And then our whole fleet went in. And since they didn't have any fast tackle, we all warped straight to the Scorpion at 0 and killed it before the fight even started. So the first thing we did was take the Scorpion out of the equation. And then Tolfrey in his saber, he stayed on that gate and bubbled their fleet so they couldn't warp off. They couldn't warp up to attack. They couldn't warp off, so he bubbled them, while the rest of us were warping up to the Scorpion. So killed the Scorpion and forced them to stay on grid. So they had to burn out to get us. And then we burnt in. We kept at about 40 kilometers and started webbing them down and killed them one at a time. And as we were starting to kill them, Glepp, Zoo, and Darren also came in from behind, and they were sort of burning off gates, so they were at 30 kilometers. And we just stayed out of tackle range of them, so we didn't get scrammed, and burned them down one at a time, spreading them out, spreading their DPS, and using the scimitar to tank most of their deeps, and only lost an Aris. It's one of the better fights I've been in, and we really should not have won that fight. But the warping out to catch the Scorpion because they didn't have any fast tackle was what won it for us. Any questions to that fight? Tekla?
Would you say their fleet composition is a bit weird with the, say, 60 plus kilometer Drake, and then there's 2 425mm auto Hurricanes in there?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But the Drakes are also dangerous for Vagabonds because the Vagabonds have a kinetic hull, so Drakes are pretty dangerous and they can engage at long range, but we had enough reps to hold that. And as long as we stayed out of tackle range, whenever we got low in shields, we could just warp off. So a couple of our Vagabonds had to warp off every now and then. Yep, Surrend?
My first observation was that their fleet is sort of monochromatic. It's all DPS, and there's no real force balance in there. They don't have any tacklers. They don't have anything but DPS, really.
Yep, so they had no way to hold our kiting ships in place. So as long as we stayed out of scram range of them, they had no real threat to us, because if we got threatened and damaged, we could just warp off. No, their FC wasn't a moron. He was just Well, we got the better of them, really. And don't assume that people you beat are morons. I always find that amusing when someone beats us and they call me a moron. What they're basically doing there is demeaning their own achievement. By calling me a moron, they're saying that it's not their skill that allowed them to kill us, it's our stupidity. Always funny to me. Yep, Kunail, you had a question?
Yes, just a hypothetical situation. If the Scorpion would have been close to the battle cruisers, the outcome would have probably be a bit different, wouldn't it?
Probably, yes.
Just a question.
Yep, but we still would have primaried that Scorpion because that would have really lost us the fight, or could have lost us the fight. Okay, I have one more engagement to show you. Sorry, I'm not linking any fights where Agony did really poorly, but I didn't feel like. So I'm linking the ones where...
Oh, we did it, yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, the total disaster. Yep. We screw up a lot of the time. Sometimes intentionally, and sometimes very unintentionally. Okay, last fight. Open that one, please. And basically, these two fleets were the same size and almost exactly the same composition. Their fleet had 3 scimitars, our fleet had 2, and we had the same number of drakes. We had a Hugin and a Lachesis. They only had a Lachesis. They didn't have the Hugin. And we had the Curse and the Falcon. I think they had a Falcon too, but no Curse. But apart from that, they were pretty evenly matched. The problem is that they didn't kill any of ours, so all their ships don't show up on the kill mail. And this is Darkside. They're very good PvPers. How do you think this fight went down to let us win it? Any ideas? Yeah, this is one of the more fun fights I've been in, actually. Kunai, you had a suggestion to how it went down?
Assuming that the drakes are long range.
Yep, they're all HML drakes. This is a fleet concept with HML drakes, kiting HML drakes.
Yeah, I thought so. I just think you guys stayed at long range and shut him down with range control on the Hugin and dampening on the high damage long range ships from the Lachesis.
Actually, the Lachesis doesn't have any damps. It only has 2 points and the rest is tank. And I think our drakes maybe had some damps, but yeah, we had our drakes had damps. Yep, Prudence.
I would imagine that you shot the semis first since they have a kinetic hull.
Well, they had 3 semis. We only killed one of them. But how were the terms of this engagement dictated? How did this fight start? Kanada?
If I had to... the fight started? I wasn't sure about that. My guess as to how you won was I don't see any tackle on the other side or hear any tackle on the other side. Again, you guys had all the fast lock, fast tackle, and you had a curse that would have totally tipped things in your balance, in your favor.
Yep, but that's not why we won it. They had tackle too. They had a Lachesis and they had some skirmishers. So they had almost the same setup as we did. The way we won this was that we started at range. They came through a gate into us. We were set up at 50 kilometers off the gate. We had eyes on them. They had eyes on us. And we were sitting there watching each other for like 15 minutes. And they even brought in reinforcements. They brought in a scimitar that they brought into the system, ready to warp down to the gate. So they had one more scimitar than us. They were waiting there for their fleet to outmatch ours with more scimitar support. Now, the reason we won this was because we were set up at 50 kilometers, and our 2 scimitars were 50 kilometers behind us again, so they were unreachable from their DPS. We had our Falcon set up in a good jamming position, and we had the Hugin, Curse, and Lachesis to prevent them from getting onto us. So you don't see their entire fleet, but basically they had to burn towards us. And since we were 50 kilometers off, we had bonuses for this fight, so the Hugin and Lachesis, they started off the fight by pointing and webbing down that scimitar, and we primaried the scimitar right off the bat. And he didn't make it back to gate. He was reapproaching gate, but he didn't make it back because he was double webbed and pointed. So he was killed from 50 kilometers off in 2 volleys from the drakes, or 3 volleys. And then we started burning off. They were burning towards us. And we kited them, and we killed their drakes one by one. And we put the range damps on the scimitars, so the scimitars couldn't rep them without burning into range of our missiles. The whole reason we won that fight, because we were set up better than they were, and they had to chase us while we were damping them down with Ewar. And we got them spread out from the reps, so they didn't get the advantage from the reps. That's why we won it. Yeah, we had ECM drones on the Simmies as well, and the Falcon, but we also had range dams on them. So they were forced to burn after us, because we were burning away, but their scimitars couldn't rep them, but ours were out of their range, so they could rep us. Any questions to that fight?
You make it sound easy.
Oh, that wasn't easy, and that took a lot of patience. Always easy in hindsight, but never easy when you do it. Okay. Azual, is the fleet set up and everything?
Well, the fleet's set up, we're in it.
Yep. We should probably get started with fleet manager and everything. And, yep, I think I'm pretty much done with the class portion, unless there are any questions. Any feedback on the class portion is also appreciated.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for putting this on. You know, we've got 82 people here. You know, usually we've got, at any given time, we've got 40 to 50 people on in each corp, especially at this time. Later as we get into late North American time zone, numbers drop off, but we always need people to FC, so this has been really good for us. I think the most important thing for our people here in Red or Blue to take away from it is it's not as hard as you think it is, and, you know, everything he said will work in cruisers or battle cruisers or frigates. We don't have to have, you know, the most expensive ships to be able to put the principles into effect. So I really want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your lives and your eve time, your game time to come here and, you know, share this with our people. It's been very beneficial.
Oh, our pleasure, absolutely. Like I said, Agony is also about sharing the fun with people. So that's why we run our PvP basic classes, and that's why we did this. And I think Azual had such a good time with you guys that he wants to contribute a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
The main, like Del said, the main thing you guys should take away from this is to just step up an FC. It's not hard. Well, actually, it's hard, and it's scary, and it's frightening, and all of that. But once you get the hang of it, it gets easier. And you get a lot of respect for stepping up an FC, which can be fun. It can also be quite intimidating sometimes. But, I mean, you will have so much more fun in the game if you just stick your neck out and try some FCing. Believe me. You don't need to be a natural at it. I'm not a natural. I spent 10 fleets learning how to do it. I've FC'd like 50, 60, maybe up to 100 really themed fleets or difficult fleets, and a bit more like casual fleets. That's where I get my experience. But it took a long time to learn it. But it was fun all the way along.
And the nice thing about RVB is, you know, most of our stuff we fly is you know, cheap crap. You know, we get 10 battle cruisers out, 10 on 10, and, you know, we think it's, you know, the invasion of Normandy, but it's really not. So, you know, you guys can learn, and nobody cares if they lose a rift drone and curses, and so you don't have to feel the pressure of, oh my God, we're going to lose 3 curses and 4 scimitars, and I'm responsible for 2 billion ISK getting flushed down the toilet. It's a good place to learn and practice, and the things like calling targets and getting tacticals, and then later on you can, you know, if you leave RVB, you can always, you know, FC a fleet like he's got up on the board here with curses and falcons and that kind of stuff, but you get the basic mechanics out of the way in RVB, and it's a cheap learning experience.
Absolutely. We often send people who lack experience to you guys to just get some PvP experience. Applicants, people who apply to Agony who haven't really PvP'd that much, we send them to you guys for some low-key PvP, explain that this is a good place to learn it. And, I mean, it's a playground. You're flying cheap ships, you don't need to care if you whelp a fleet. Just do it. Azual?
I just wanted to say, obviously, a lot of you guys, if you haven't FC before, then if you're going to step up and do this, it's probably going to be your first time. You're not going to be particularly confident, but just bear this in mind. If the FC dies, or if there's no FC and someone needs to step up to take it over, no one is going to blame you for the fact that you stepped up and didn't do as good a job as maybe someone else who was there could. Because the fact is, you volunteered, you did it, and because you did that, there was a fight. If you hadn't have done that, there wouldn't have been one. So it doesn't matter that someone else in the fleet might have done a better job, because they didn't step up, and you did. And that makes you better than they are.
Yep, and if anyone gives you 20/20 hindsight crap with you should have done this better, you should have done that better, oh, you're a terrible FC, stuff like that, tell them to stuff it and FC themselves. Stick their neck out and see how it feels to get it chewed up in hindsight. Fuck them. Just step up and FC and don't care what people say. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun.